Happy birthday, Sophia. Open it.
You've been acting mysterious all week. What is it this time?
Go ahead.
Divorce papers?
He lifted a thick, cream-colored envelope from inside his tailored suit and slowly slid it across the birthday table toward his wife. Happy 40th birthday, Sophia. Sophia Carter smiled warmly, believing it was another surprise. You've been acting mysterious all week, she teased. What is it this time? Go ahead, Damien said. Open it. The orchestra stopped playing. More than 100 guests watched with curious smiles. Executives, friends, family, reporters invited to cover the glamorous celebration. Sophia untied the ribbon around the envelope. Her smile faded. The first page read, "Petition for dissolution of marriage." Her fingers froze. Silence swallowed the ballroom. Damien leaned back in his chair and crossed one leg over the other. "I figured," he said loudly. "There's no better time to tell everyone the truth." Gasps echoed across the room. One of Sophia's closest friends whispered, "Please tell me this is some kind of joke." "It isn't," Damien replied before Sophia could answer. He stood and picked up his microphone. "For years, everyone here has believed I had the perfect marriage." He laughed. "I didn't." Sophia slowly looked up at him. Her lips parted slightly. "Damien." "No," he interrupted. "You've had your chance." The guests shifted uncomfortably. Richard Carter, Damien's father and founder of Carter Holdings, remained unusually quiet. His sharp eye stayed fixed on his son. Damien continued, "I've spent years pretending to be happy while living with a woman who controls every part of my life." Sophia blinked. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, now you're confused?" Damien mocked. "You controlled where we traveled. I asked your opinion. You controlled our home. I decorated our home. You controlled every conversation. I supported you." He chuckled. "Exactly." Some guests exchanged uneasy looks. The accusations sounded exaggerated. Sophia stood slowly. "If this is because you're upset about yesterday, we can discuss it privately." "No." Damien pointed toward the crowd. "Tonight, everyone deserves to know who you really are." His words hit the room like thunder. A woman covered her mouth. Someone quietly started recording with a phone. Sophia's voice trembled. "Please don't do this. I've already done it." He tapped the divorce papers. "I've signed every page." He looked around proudly. "And before anyone judges me." He smiled. "I've also found someone who actually appreciates me." The ballroom erupted into whispers. Sophia turned slowly. Across the room stood Vanessa. Elegant, confident, wearing a fitted emerald dress. She didn't look embarrassed. She smiled. Sophia recognized her immediately. She had attended several company galas. Vanessa even waved politely. The humiliation was complete. Damien walked toward Vanessa. He gently placed his arm around her waist. "Meet the woman who reminds me what happiness feels like." Sophia stared. "You brought her. I wanted honesty. To my birthday? I wanted closure." Richard finally spoke. "Damien." His deep voice silenced everyone. "Sit down." Damien looked at his father. "No, Dad. You've embarrassed your wife enough." "No." He smiled confidently. "I've only just begun." Sophia lowered her eyes toward the divorce papers. For several seconds, she didn't move. She didn't cry. She simply breathed. Then, she folded the papers neatly, placed them back inside the envelope, looked directly at Damien, and smiled. Not a broken smile. Not a nervous smile. A calm, almost peaceful smile. Damien frowned. "What are you smiling about?" Sophia looked around the ballroom. "I was just thinking." "Thinking what?" "That this evening turned out exactly the way it needed to." The room became quiet again. Vanessa frowned. Damien laughed. "You finally lost it." "Maybe." Sophia looked toward the orchestra. "Gentlemen." The musicians instinctively looked at her. "Please enjoy your dinner for a few more minutes." Damien raised an eyebrow. "What are you doing?" She ignored him. Instead, she picked up her champagne glass. "I think everyone deserves another drink." The guests looked confused. Richard's expression changed. He knew that smile. He had seen it only once before. The day Sophia quietly saved the company from bankruptcy. Damien laughed louder. "Look at her." He turned toward the guests. "She's pretending none of this is happening." Sophia calmly took a sip of champagne. "No." She placed the glass down. "I'm simply deciding the order." "The order?" "The order in which the truth should come out." Damien rolled his eyes. There is no truth left. Oh. She looked directly into his eyes. There is. His confidence flickered. Only for a second. What exactly are you talking about? You'll see. Vanessa stepped forward. Sophia. Her voice carried fake sympathy. You deserve someone who actually loves you. Sophia slowly turned. You must be Vanessa. Vanessa smiled proudly. I've heard so much about you. I'm sure you have. I never wanted to hurt you. Sophia tilted her head. Really? Vanessa hesitated. Then why are you here? Vanessa glanced at Damien. He answered instead. Because she has nothing to hide. Sophia nodded slowly. Interesting. Damien folded his arms. You know what's interesting? What? You still haven't signed. I've had less than 5 minutes. You don't need 5. I read contracts before signing them. He smirked. You won't find anything. Sophia smiled again. I'm not looking for mistakes. What then? I'm looking for timing. Richard's eyes narrowed. Timing. That single word immediately caught his attention. Damien scoffed. You've always loved playing games. No. Sophia looked toward the entrance of the ballroom. I've simply learned patience. Damien followed her eyes. Nothing. Just hotel staff. Guests. Waiters. He laughed again. You're hoping someone walks through that door and saves you? Sophia answered quietly. No. I'm waiting for someone to arrive. Vanessa folded her arms. Who? Sophia checked the elegant watch on her wrist. They're actually. She smiled softly. Right on time. The ballroom doors slowly opened. Everyone instinctively turned. 3 people walked inside. A gray-haired attorney carrying a leather briefcase. A middle-aged woman holding a thick folder. And a younger man wheeling in a projector case. Damien's smile disappeared. His heartbeat quickened. He whispered. Who are they? Sophia finally looked him in the eyes. The reason I never interrupted your speech. The attorney walked directly toward Sophia. He handed her a sealed envelope. She thanked him politely. Richard slowly stood. For the first time that evening. He looked genuinely concerned. Damien took 1 step forward. What is this? Sophia calmly opened the envelope. You wanted everyone to know the truth. She removed several documents. I think that's a wonderful idea. She looked toward every guest in the ballroom. Then back at Damien. So let's tell them everything. Damien suddenly didn't feel like the man in control anymore. And as the projector screen began to descend from the ceiling, he realized the night he had carefully scripted was no longer his story to tell. The projector stopped halfway before lowering completely into place. Every conversation in the ballroom died instantly. Damien forced a laugh. So this is your big comeback. Sophia didn't answer him. Instead, she turned to the technician. Would you please connect the laptop? Of course, Mrs. Carter. The technician nodded respectfully and began setting up the equipment. Vanessa leaned closer to Damien and whispered, She's bluffing. Damien nodded, though he didn't sound convinced. She has to be. Richard remained standing. His eyes never left Sophia. Unlike everyone else in the room, he wasn't wondering what she was about to reveal. He was wondering how much she knew. Sophia accepted the wireless microphone from the attorney. First, she said calmly, I'd like to thank every one of you for attending what has become a very unforgettable birthday. A few uncomfortable chuckles echoed through the room. I know many of you expected tears. She smiled faintly. I almost disappointed myself. Damien smirked. There she is. Finally admitting she lost. Sophia looked at him. Did I? The projector flickered to life. A single image appeared. It was a family photograph taken nearly 12 years earlier. Damien frowned. What is this supposed to prove? Sophia ignored him. 12 years ago. This picture was taken the week after our wedding. She looked around the room. Back then, Damien wasn't a CEO. The guests looked toward Damien. He wasn't even a vice president. Another image appeared. A small office. Old desks. Boxes stacked in corners. The Carter Holdings logo looked worn and outdated. Sophia continued. Back then, Carter Holdings was carrying debt that almost forced it into liquidation. Several older executives exchanged surprised looks. They remembered those difficult years. Damien laughed nervously. What does this have to do with anything? Everything. Sophia clicked the remote. A financial statement appeared on the screen. Numbers. Losses. Bank notices. Default warnings. Whispers spread across the ballroom. One executive murmured, I remember this. Another nodded. We almost lost everything. Damien's face tightened. Sophia looked directly at him. Do you remember the emergency board meeting that everyone still talks about? Of course I do. You gave a speech afterward. I did. You said you had found a way to save the company. Damien smiled proudly. I did. Sophia's expression never changed. No. The room fell silent again. You didn't. Damien's smile disappeared. What? You didn't save Carter Holdings. He laughed louder. Now you're rewriting history? Sophia slowly lifted another document. My father passed away 6 months before that crisis. Her voice softened. He left me a trust fund. Several guests listened carefully. I had planned to use it to open my own design firm. She paused. But then I saw my husband's family struggling. Richard lowered his head. He already knew where this was going. So, Sophia continued. I liquidated nearly everything I inherited. Another document appeared. A wire transfer. Millions of dollars. The recipient. Carter Holdings. The room gasped. Damien's breathing became heavier. No. Sophia clicked again. Signed loan guarantees. Investment agreements. Private contracts. Each carried her signature. I invested my inheritance to save the company. Someone whispered. My God. An elderly board member slowly stood. I remember these documents. He looked toward Richard. You told us the investor wanted to remain anonymous. Richard nodded once. She did. Every eye turned toward Sophia. She smiled politely. I never wanted recognition. Vanessa looked confused. She whispered to Damien. You never told me this. Damien remained silent. Sophia continued. I believed a marriage meant building together. She looked toward Damien. So, I let everyone believe you were the hero. The ballroom became painfully quiet. One executive shook his head. All these years. Another whispered. We applauded the wrong person. Damien finally snapped. So what? Everyone turned. So you loaned the company money. Sophia looked at him. That's your defense. It doesn't change anything. No. He stepped closer. You still couldn't satisfy me as a wife. Several guests frowned. Richard closed his eyes briefly. Even he seemed embarrassed by his son's words. Sophia remained calm. I wondered how long it would take before you made this personal. Damien pointed toward Vanessa. I found someone who appreciates me. Vanessa smiled awkwardly. Sophia nodded. I'm sure she appreciates what she thinks you own. Vanessa's smile faded. What does that mean? Sophia ignored her. She clicked the remote again. This time the screen displayed ownership records. Property after property. Commercial buildings. Hotels. Luxury apartments. Land. Guests leaned forward. Damien frowned. What are you doing? Sophia answered softly, showing everyone who actually owns them. A highlighted section appeared. Registered owner, Sophia Carter. Another. Joint ownership with Sophia Carter. Another. Purchased through Sophia Carter Family Trust. Vanessa's eyes widened. She looked toward Damien. You told me those were yours. They are. Sophia interrupted. No. She clicked again. A beautiful beachfront mansion appeared. Vanessa smiled. I've been there. Sophia nodded. I know. Vanessa looked confused. You invited us. No. Sophia smiled. I invited my husband. Vanessa froze. The house belongs to me. Another document. The penthouse. Sophia. Another. Vacation chalet. Sophia. Another. Luxury vineyard. Sophia. The whispers grew louder. Damien clenched his fists. This proves nothing. Sophia looked directly at him. It proves you enjoyed introducing another woman to homes she believed belonged to you. Vanessa slowly stepped away from Damien. He grabbed her hand. Don't listen to her. Sophia clicked again. Company records appeared. The audience gasped once more. Board resolutions. Expansion strategies. Acquisition plans. All bearing Sophia's initials. One board member couldn't stay quiet. Wait. He adjusted his glasses. These are the strategic plans that doubled our revenue. Richard nodded. They are. The executive looked at Sophia in disbelief. You wrote these? I did. Damien quickly interrupted. I supervised them. Sophia smiled. You approved them after changing the font. Laughter burst from several corners of the ballroom. Damien's face turned red. One executive whispered, "She's serious." Another replied, "I remember receiving those documents directly from her." More memories began surfacing. She solved the Chicago merger. And the Dallas negotiations. She redesigned our logistics division. I thought Damien did all of that. Richard finally spoke. No. Everyone became silent again. My son presented the ideas. He looked at Sophia. She created them. Damien stared at his father. Dad. Richard's voice was filled with disappointment. I asked you years ago if you deserved the praise. Damien swallowed hard. You told me. I know what I told you. Richard interrupted. And I also knew who really earned it. Vanessa looked back and forth between the two men. Her confidence was disappearing rapidly. She quietly asked Damien, "Is this true?" Damien looked away. Sophia watched silently. Then she reached into another folder. "I've shown everyone who helped build the company." She placed the folder on the table. "But none of that is why we're here tonight." The room became still again. Damien frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I promised myself something 3 months ago." "What?" "That if you ever tried to destroy me publicly." She slowly lifted another envelope. "I'd let everyone see the man behind the mask." Damien's heartbeat quickened. His mouth suddenly felt dry. "What envelope is that?" Sophia didn't answer. Instead, she looked toward the attorney. "Mr. Harrison." "Yes, Mrs. Carter." "Would you please tell everyone when I first contacted your office?" The attorney opened his file. "I received Mrs. Carter's instructions exactly 93 days ago." The ballroom erupted into murmurs. 93 days? Sophia had known for 3 months? Damien stared at her. "You knew?" "I knew enough." "You followed me?" "No." She looked directly into his eyes. "You became careless." The attorney removed another stack of papers. "I was instructed to verify financial transfers, business communications, hotel records, and other relevant information." Vanessa's breathing became shallow. She whispered, "Damien." He didn't respond. Sophia gently placed one hand on the envelope. "I've already shown everyone who built your success." She looked around the ballroom one guest at a time. "Now," her voice dropped almost to a whisper, "it's time everyone learns how close you came to destroying everything." She broke the seal on the envelope. Damien took an involuntary step backward. For the first time that night, he looked afraid. Damien's face drained of color. "What exactly is in that envelope?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Sophia looked at him for a long moment before answering. "The part of the story you hoped would never be told." She handed several documents to the attorney. "Mr. Harrison, would you please distribute copies to the members of the board?" The attorney nodded. "Certainly." One by one, sealed folders landed in front of every board member seated around the ballroom. Damien looked from face to face. "What is this?" No one answered him. Sophia pressed the remote again. The projector changed. A timeline appeared across the screen. 3 months. Dozens of dates. Meetings. Phone calls. Hotel reservations. Financial transactions. Damien forced a laugh. "So you track my calendar?" "No," Sophia replied calmly. "You left a trail." She clicked again. A photograph appeared. Damien and Vanessa walking into a luxury hotel. The date was visible. Vanessa immediately lowered her head. Someone in the audience gasped. Another image appeared. Damien handing Vanessa the keys to a luxury penthouse. Then another. The two of them aboard a yacht. Another. A jewelry store. Another. A private dinner. Vanessa turned to Damien. "You said nobody knew." Damien whispered through clenched teeth. "They weren't supposed to." Sophia looked toward Vanessa. "I never cared about the affair." Both Damien and Vanessa stared at her. "You didn't?" "No." The room became quiet again. "I cared about what the affair made the two of you willing to do." She clicked again. The screen displayed text messages. Vanessa covered her mouth. "Oh no." Damien's eyes widened. "Where did you get those?" Sophia ignored him. One message appeared in large letters. "Damien, she'll never recover if I do it in front of everyone." Another. "Vanessa, make sure someone records her face when she cries. It'll be priceless." The ballroom exploded with whispers. Vanessa immediately shook her head. "Wait, that's not what I meant." Sophia calmly looked at her. "Would you like me to continue?" Vanessa slowly stepped backward. Damien shouted. "Those messages were private." Sophia answered without emotion. "So was our marriage." Another message appeared. "Damien, after tonight, she'll leave with nothing." Another. "Vanessa, and next birthday, we'll celebrate together." Several guests looked away in disgust. Richard closed his eyes. He could barely recognize the son he had raised. Sophia continued. I could have exposed the affair months ago. She paused. But infidelity wasn't the worst thing you did. Damien swallowed hard. What are you talking about? Sophia clicked again. The projector displayed financial records, company expense reports, invoices, credit card statements. One after another. The attorney spoke. Our independent audit discovered that over the last 11 months, more than $2 million in corporate funds were used for personal purposes. The room erupted again. Damien quickly answered. Those were executive expenses. The attorney calmly shook his head. They were not. Sophia looked toward the guests. The jewelry. Click. The vacations. Click. The hotel suites. Click. The luxury vehicle leased for Miss Vanessa Brooks. Click. The designer handbags. Click. Every single purchase. Click. Was paid for by Carter Holdings. Vanessa's eyes filled with panic. She turned toward Damien. You told me those gifts came from your own account. They practically did. No. Sophia interrupted. They came from the employees who worked overtime. She looked around the room. They came from shareholders who trusted this company. She looked back at Vanessa. And they came from families whose bonuses were reduced because expenses were mysteriously increasing. Vanessa's breathing became uneven. I didn't know. Sophia nodded. I believe you didn't know about the company funds. Damien immediately interrupted. Stop trying to make yourself look noble. Sophia ignored him. She looked directly at Vanessa. But you did know he was married. Vanessa couldn't answer. You knew he planned to humiliate me tonight. Still no answer. You laughed about it. Tears formed in Vanessa's eyes. She whispered. I thought. You thought I deserved it? Vanessa lowered her head. Sophia didn't insult her. She simply looked away. That silence hurt far more than any angry words could have. Damien slammed his fist on the table. This is ridiculous. He pointed at Sophia. You've spent months spying on me. No. She answered immediately. I spent months protecting what you were trying to destroy. Richard finally spoke. What exactly was he trying to destroy? Sophia slowly turned toward him. The company. The room froze. Damien laughed loudly. Now that's insane. Is it? Sophia clicked again. A confidential acquisition proposal appeared on the screen. One of the board members stood immediately. That's classified. It was. Sophia nodded. Until someone emailed it outside the company. Another click. An email appeared. Sender. Damien Carter. Recipient. A competing corporation. The room became deathly silent. Damien's mouth fell open. That's impossible. The attorney spoke. Our forensic IT specialists verified the email. Damien looked around desperately. It's fake. Another document appeared. IP addresses. Login records. Digital signatures. Timestamps. Richard slowly removed his glasses. His hands trembled. Tell me this isn't true. Dad. Tell me. Damien couldn't. Richard's voice cracked. Did you leak confidential company information? Damien looked at the floor. It wasn't like that. Richard stared at him in disbelief. It wasn't. His voice grew louder. Like that. Damien finally exploded. I needed investors. You needed money. I deserved more. You were already CEO. It wasn't enough. The entire ballroom listened in stunned silence. Damien continued. I was tired of everyone treating Sophia like she was perfect. He pointed at her. She always had the answers. She always fixed everything. My own father listened to her more than me. Richard whispered. Because she earned it. Damien ignored him. I wanted one deal that was mine. He looked around the room. So I negotiated with another company. Sophia quietly finished the sentence. In exchange for a personal payment. Damien didn't deny it. The silence became unbearable. Richard looked as though his heart had broken. You sold out your own company. Damien looked at his father with anger instead of regret. I built that company. Richard's eyes filled with disappointment. No. He slowly pointed toward Sophia. She helped save it. Then he pointed toward the employees standing around the ballroom. They built it. Finally, he pointed at himself. And I started it. His voice hardened. But you. He took a deep breath. You almost destroyed everything our family stood for. No one moved. No one even breathed. Richard reached inside his suit jacket. He removed a sealed envelope. Sophia looked surprised. So, Damien whispered. You knew? Richard looked at his son. I prayed every single day that I was wrong. He handed the envelope to the chairman of the board. It appears, he said quietly, that I wasn't. The chairman opened the envelope. His eyes scanned the document. Then he slowly stood. Ladies and gentlemen. He cleared his throat. This document contains the unanimous decision of the Carter Holdings Board of Directors. Damien's heartbeat pounded in his ears. What decision? The chairman looked directly at him. The decision we hoped we would never have to make. The ballroom fell completely silent. Damien suddenly realized. The divorce papers he had brought to destroy Sophia were no longer the biggest document in the room. The chairman looked around the silent ballroom before unfolding the final page. His voice was steady, effective immediately by unanimous vote of the Board of Directors of Carter Holdings. He paused. Damien Carter is hereby removed as Chief Executive Officer. The words landed like an explosion. No, Damien whispered. The chairman continued. All executive authority is terminated immediately. Access to company accounts, systems, and corporate facilities is revoked pending a full internal investigation. Damien slammed both hands on the table. You can't do this. The chairman calmly replied. It has already been done. Damien spun toward his father. Dad, tell them this is a joke. Richard looked at him with tears in his eyes. I wish I could. You own this company. I own enough shares to protect it. Then stop this. Richard slowly shook his head. I spent 40 years building Carter Holdings. His voice cracked. I will not spend the rest of my life watching my own son destroy it. Damien stepped closer. You'd choose her over me? Richard looked directly into his son's eyes. No. He answered quietly. I'm choosing integrity over betrayal. Silence. Richard turned toward the board. Please continue. The chairman nodded. The board has also voted to appoint an interim chief executive officer. Every guest leaned forward. Damien laughed bitterly. So who's replacing me? The answer is unanimous. The chairman looked toward Sophia. Mrs. Sophia Carter. The ballroom erupted. Some guests stood instinctively. Others applauded before realizing how emotional the moment had become. Sophia remained seated. She looked stunned. Mr. Chairman. The chairman smiled. The board believes no one is more qualified. One director stood. I second that. Another followed. So do I. Then another. And I. Within seconds, every board member was standing, applauding. Damien looked around the room. These were the same people who had applauded him just minutes earlier. Now, not one of them was looking at him. They were all looking at Sophia. Damien pointed at her. She manipulated all of you. An elderly board member answered immediately. No. You manipulated us. We simply didn't know it. Another executive stood. I remember every acquisition she planned. Another. Every crisis she solved. Another. Every negotiation she rescued. Richard slowly walked toward Sophia. His eyes were full of pride. I've waited a long time to say this publicly. Sophia looked at him. You never owed me anything. He smiled sadly. I owe you the truth. He turned toward everyone gathered. Years ago, when Carter Holdings was collapsing, I asked an anonymous investor why they wanted no recognition. He looked back at Sophia. She told me something I'll never forget. Sophia lowered her eyes. Richard repeated her words. If the company survives, the employees keep feeding their families. That's recognition enough. The room became emotional. One employee quietly wiped away tears. Another whispered, I never knew. Richard continued. From that day forward, I knew exactly who my successor should be. Damien stared at him. You planned this. Richard shook his head. No. I hoped you'd become the leader I believed you could be. His voice grew heavier. But leadership isn't inherited. He looked towards Sophia. It's earned. The applause became louder. Damien couldn't believe what he was hearing. He turned desperately toward Vanessa. Say something. Vanessa didn't move. He walked over to her. Vanessa. She looked at him for a long moment. You told me you built everything. I did. No. She shook her head slowly. You borrowed someone else's success. He grabbed her arm. Don't leave. She gently removed his hand. You promised me a future. I can fix this. She looked around the ballroom. Can you? Damien couldn't answer. She sighed deeply. I fell in love with the man you pretended to be. She glanced toward Sophia. I didn't realize she was the one carrying everything. Damien's voice broke. Vanessa, I'm sorry. She wasn't speaking to Damien. She was speaking to Sophia. I truly am. Sophia nodded politely. I hope one day you choose better. Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. Without another word, she quietly walked out of the ballroom. The enormous doors closed behind her. Damien stood alone. For the first time all night, he had no one standing beside him. Just then, two members of corporate security approached. One of them spoke respectfully. Mr. Carter. Damien turned. We've been instructed to collect your executive identification. He stared at them in disbelief. You've got to be kidding. I'm sorry, sir. One guard held out his hand. After several long seconds, Damien slowly removed the gold executive badge from his jacket. He looked at it. The badge that had opened every office, every boardroom, every private elevator, every executive suite. He placed it in the guard's hand. It felt heavier than it ever had before. The guard nodded politely. Thank you, sir. Damien looked toward his father one last time. Richard didn't say a word. He simply closed his eyes. That silence hurt more than any lecture ever could. Damien turned and began walking toward the exit. The ballroom that had welcomed him with applause now watched him leave without a single word. Halfway to the door, he stopped. He looked back. Sophia was surrounded by employees, board members, friends, people congratulating her, not because she had defeated Damien, but because they finally knew the truth. He realized something that shattered him. She had never wanted his position. She had only wanted his respect, and he had traded it for his pride. The doors closed behind him. Outside, rain had begun to fall. His driver walked toward him. Good evening, Mr. Carter. Damien looked at the company car, then back toward the hotel. The driver cleared his throat. I'm sorry, sir. The vehicle now reports to the office of the chief executive officer. Damien gave a hollow laugh. Of course it does. The driver handed him a small envelope. It was left for you. Damien opened it. Inside was a handwritten note. There was no anger, no insults, just one sentence. The greatest loss isn't power, it's forgetting the people who helped you earn it. Sophia. Damien read it again. Then again. He folded the note carefully and slipped it into his pocket. Back inside the ballroom, Richard approached Sophia. I know tonight wasn't the birthday you deserved. Sophia smiled softly. No, it wasn't. Richard sighed. I'm sorry for everything my son put you through. She gently shook her head. Please don't apologize for another person's choices. He smiled. You still think about everyone else before yourself. She laughed quietly. Old habits. Richard looked around the room. The company is yours now. Sophia corrected him. No. She looked toward the employees. It belongs to every person who gave their best to build it. The employees applauded again. One young woman stepped forward. I've worked here for 7 years. Sophia smiled. I know. I almost quit twice. Sophia laughed. I remember convincing you to stay. You did. The employee wiped away tears. Thank you. Another employee stepped forward. And me. Soon, dozens of employees surrounded her, sharing stories, moments she had probably forgotten, small acts of kindness that had changed their lives. Richard watched quietly. Then he whispered to himself, that's what a leader looks like. 6 months later, Carter Holdings reported its highest profits in company history. Employee satisfaction reached record levels. New scholarship programs were created. Single-parent support initiatives were launched. Mental health benefits expanded. For the first time, every employee, from executives to receptionists, received performance bonuses. The business magazines celebrated the remarkable turnaround. But Sophia never accepted interviews that praised her alone. She always said the same thing. A company grows when its people grow. Richard officially retired that summer. At the retirement ceremony, he stood before hundreds of employees. There is only one decision I regret. The room became silent. I regret waiting so long to tell the world who the real leader was. He invited Sophia onto the stage. The standing ovation lasted nearly 2 minutes. As the celebration ended, Sophia returned to her office. She opened one drawer. Inside lay the unsigned divorce papers. She looked at them for a moment, then quietly closed the drawer. Some chapters didn't need to be reread. They only needed to be finished. The narrator's voice softened. Damien believed power made him untouchable. He believed public humiliation would break the woman who had stood beside him for years. Instead, the very stage he built to destroy her became the place where the truth set her free. In the end, Sophia didn't win because she sought revenge. She won because character will always outlast deception, and respect will always outlive pride. If this story moved you, let us know in the comments. Did Richard make the right decision by choosing integrity over his own son, or would you have handled it differently? We'd love to hear your thoughts and where you're watching from. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another unforgettable story.